and welcome back to The Shed here at Shedinburgh Fringe Festival as part of the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Pleasure to see you, though I can't really see you. You know how it works. That TV talk always does annoy me at home, but here I am saying it. Listen, it's a pleasure to have you here, whether you're listening or watching. Do like and subscribe and all that gubbins. Check out the other podcasts. They should be in the feed or on the page or whatever the tech wizards are doing with the podcast. It's been a pleasure. And here I am again in this chair, this rather squeaky chair that has not yet squawk on the show. But we have a new guest and I'll talk about him. His name is David Elms. He is a delightful guy. So far, our meeting has been lovely. I cannot wait to get to know him more. His show, David Elms Describes a Room, is here at the Shed. It sounds absolutely joyous. And I would like to introduce you to him now. David Elms, how are you?
I'm great. And everybody should know that our host here was generous enough to share his sandwich with me before the podcast.
Listen, a sandwich shared is a sandwich halved, but a sandwich halved is a sandwich shared.
Yeah.
And I think we should take that probably for the cutting room floor. The point is, it's a pleasure to see you. It was a decent sandwich.
It was good.
Yeah. I, when I picked it up, I already wanted to put it back because I thought it looked a wee bit sloppy.
Yeah.
And I thought,
well, do you know what that is? It's when I see the tomato, it makes me worried about how wet the tomato is going to be.
But somehow it held.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a joy.
It held, yeah.
It was a pleasure to share that with you because if I just had both of them on my own, one, you'd be hungry and that would be a shame. And two, no one would be in this exact situation we're in right now where we both were like, yeah, it was really wet, but also it wasn't.
Yeah. Maybe it would have been too dry without the tomato.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And maybe two of them would have been too much. We'll never know, but I'm perfectly content with the joy I had. So I'm glad that
I'm 100% satisfied and grateful, which is exactly how you want to start.
You're very, very welcome.
Yeah.
Well, tell me then, you're going to be here in the Shed tonight doing David Elms Describes a Room.
Yes.
And, how do you describe a room? Do you start by going, I see some lights, I see some chairs, I see some people, I see, more people? Or is it a wee bit more magical than that, I suspect?
Well, that sounds quite fun as well. Maybe you could do that show.
Good, because I'm looking for something to do on the show on Sunday.
Yeah.
So, I'll just describe the actual room.
Describe the actual room. Yeah, no, I think that's... quite a few people do turn up thinking that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's hard to really get across in the title of the show exactly how it works. I guess that would be David Elms Describes the Room, but it's David Elms Describes a room, and the room that I describe is not the room that I'm in, which is a shame because this is a great room.
It's a really cool room.
It's full of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
But the show is essentially a game where together with the audience, we sort of work as a big collective to build a new room, an imagined improvised room on the stage, wherever that may be, a room that's never existed before, and after the show goes away. So it's sort of the first sort of 40 minutes of the show is just getting from as many audience members as I can a suggestion of an object or something to be in the room.
Yeah.
So it starts very simply. Someone might say, a vase. And then we'll kind of talk about, what kind of vase is it? What's it made of? Is there something in the vase? Then we sort of place it in the room. And then over the hour, it just kind of starts to build up more and more detail. So it's basically like a parlor game. It's sort of a non-competitive, playful game that we're all going to kind of build this imaginary room. And I do my best to try and help people remember where everything is. And I'm sort of trying to remember everything as well. And then the end of the show is I just do a scene in the imagined room, which most of the time is just me wandering around in silence, picking things up. But so it's basically a parlor game and then a party trick of, wow, how did he remember all that stuff? But there is obviously kind of magic of, the ephemeral nature of it and the fact that it's just for everybody here, different every time. So yeah, I absolutely love it. And I can't wait. I'm doing it in nearly 2.5 hours. So yeah, that's essentially how it works. So it's not this room, it's a new room.
Excellent. And it does sound like, I can imagine people becoming attached to things that aren't there, or or suddenly almost sort of live in the moment, reminiscent about stuff they forgot existed in the room, but you remembered, like, oh, he's going to knock over that vase. Oh, he didn't. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And do you ever feel like you upset people by forgetting something and walking through a space where you'd placed something, or are you quite tight on where everything goes?
I'm quite good at not like walking through things.
Yeah.
I occasionally will forget something, and not everything gets played with, because I think on average it's around 40 things in the room. So sometimes I'll forget to play with something, or I'll remember something, but I just don't happen to play with it in the scene. And I think hopefully people forgive me for not playing with their thing. But people do get really attached. My favorite thing that ever happens in the show is when I'm getting a suggestion from an audience member that they're taking the game so seriously that in my favorite interaction I've ever had was, I said, okay, on the arm of this, we've got an armchair. So on the left arm of the armchair, there's and this woman said, I was doing it in Wales, she said, there's a pin cushion. I said, amazing, love it. So there's a pin cushion on the arm of the armchair, and there's a few pins sticking out of it. And she went, no. Like, very seriously, she was like, no, there's no pins. I was like, oh, sorry. Sorry, yeah, of course. Why would there be pins in it? So I love that when people are they're really specific, and they have this real specific image in their heads. Yeah. And people do get attached as well. Like in the show last night, there was an old dog, and you probably can imagine what happened in the scene, which is that the dog passed away. And because when we were describing the dog, I said to the person, how old is this dog? And they said, at death's door. So then in the scene, it was sort of, the dog was passing away, and I made it clear that in the way that I was miming that my character was very sad the dog had died. And then someone in the audience started barking because they obviously disagreed. Like, they didn't want the dog to have died. So then the dog wasn't dead. So yeah, the audience do. But it's the kind of show where if you disagree that the dog has died, you can just start barking in it. Now the dog's alive again.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Such as, I suppose that's the thing about what you highlight in a moment like that, is the attachment we have to stories, and we forget that in many ways we search for truth about ourselves or connection with the world around us through things that don't exist, but we make exist in just the words and the space between us. And so in a way, you're sort of examining the very fabric of what it is to create a story or place yourself in a place where we can hold ourselves in a way emotionally that we want to engage in our life, allowing ourselves through play, You're
giving me goosebumps.
Oh, listen.
You write my blurb for next year?
Yeah, sure.
Speaking of stories, though, one of the really surprising things for me about the show, the more that I've done it, is when I'm doing the scene at the end, I can't plan the scene because I've got too much going on. So then when it comes to do the scene, it's improvised. I'm just trying to remember what's there, and I'm moving around, interacting with things. And what I love and what seems to happen is that everyone in the audience is watching me, and the scene is mostly silent. We don't really know much about the character. We're just seeing someone exist in a space. And yet people fill in all of the gaps. So every single person in the audience is filling in the gaps with their own thoughts of what's happening here, what is the person thinking, and people start to put story onto something which is not, I'm not trying to tell a story in the final scene. Maybe sometimes there's a connection between a few objects, and maybe sometimes a little story does develop, but mainly I'm just moving around in a room. But it's kind of, I think that's one of my favorite things about the show is how much work the audience does.
Yeah, and I think to give the audience a space to do that, the amount of times you see a show and sometimes something is slightly over-described or over-explained, and you feel like, oh, I was in a space where this was about to mean all of this, and now you've asked me to make it mean just this.
Yeah.
And it's still opened all the stuff before that moment happened, where they asked you to sort of hone it down, but being able to create a space like that where you can bring yourself to it
and that
blanks.
Yeah, and I sort of moved towards that, because when I first started doing the show, I would get objects from the audience, and then during the describing bit, sometimes I would then add things as well, and I would also start to talk about the person whose room it was, and maybe I would tell a story of how they got this thing, and I would contribute much more. But the more that I've done the show, the less I do, now to the point where I never add anything, and we don't learn about the person. And I think it's just leaning into the idea of like, how much can I actually just completely hand control over, and also be a cipher, be a blank space.
And that must take real discipline over time, because you will probably want to control it to begin with.
Yeah.
Think, well, I want to make sure it works.
Yeah.
But when you do that halfway thing, I don't know, is there a feeling in you where, we talked at the beginning about describing the room versus our room? It's closer to the room if you can bring yourself to it as the, from conduit to actually controller, then you start to describe the room rather than the our room that exists in all their heads,
Wow. You're good, man.
Oh, well, listen,
Conduit to controller.
Yeah.
That's good.
That the late night Thomas the Tank Engine. Late night makes it sound dirty. I just meant more complex than necessarily the audience for Thomas the Tank. Although, speaking of complex, I mean, you go back and watch some of those early episodes of Thomas the Tank. They're fucking heavy as shit, man.
Have you seen the new? The new Thomas the Train?
I am a big fan of some of it. I think sometimes my kids ask me a lot of questions. They're like, okay, so super fun that he's like getting all over the world, right? But trains are meant to be a sustainable transportation, but yet he's turning up in all different continents. So was he flown there? Did he go on a big boat? How much did that cost? And I'm like, yeah, Thomas isn't really thinking of his carbon footprint anymore. He's just jetting all over the world, which is cool to see the world, through the eyes of a CGI train universe. But there's things I've not really thought through about what was once great about Thomas. But some of those early, I mean, my
brother and I both had nightmares about the one where
they brick up Henry.
Henry.
They just like, you're not useful anymore, and up you go, bricked. Now I know we should be talking about the Fringe, but I think it's important to talk about stories in a general sense, and some linger in a good way and some linger in a bad way. Anyway, to the people who made Thomas the Tank Engine, we forgive you, and it's all important.
Yeah.
That was me taking a deliberate drink break so we can do a cut. And oh my God, right.
You're just thinking, all you can think about is Thomas the Tank Engine.
Well, I wanted to then go on and talk about Postman Pat, but I think I'm going to do a fair bit of that on Sunday. So which is still great, by the way, Postman Pat, check it out.
It's got a helicopter now.
Yeah, and a hovercraft. Like, the guys get all sorts of machines for what's quite a small postal district.
Yeah.
And we don't need to worry about that necessarily. So take me back, David. You are talking a few years now you've been doing this show?
Yeah.
Building it up, growing it. Is this the first time you brought it to the Fringe?
It is, yeah.
So what was the decision then to say, right, I'm going to Edinburgh with this?
So I sort of gave up comedy a few years ago, because I did it all through my 20s and did all kinds of different things and did lots of fringes. And then I was sort of 29, 30, and wife and I expecting, and I just felt like, this is hard. It's, professional gambling, basically. And then about 5 days after we found out that we were pregnant, this guy offered me a job, like a job. And it just felt like the universe being like, come on. And I also, at the time, I basically had nothing on my CV because I'd just been farting around. So I was like, if I turn this down, then what am I doing? So I took this kind of office job, and I naively thought, just because I've got this job that I can still, I've still got evenings and weekends, I won't be available to be acting and stuff, but I can still perform, I can still do whatever. But obviously then when you've got a full-time job and then you have young kids, and then COVID, it was sort of like, I actually wasn't doing anything. But I sort of had made peace with it. And I kind of scratched the itch by doing occasional improv. And also I was teaching improv, which had been my sort of day job when I was doing comedy. And then it became my hobby when I was had an office job. And I love teaching. And I, think everyone should teach if they can. So I was sort of in a place of not thinking ever like, oh, I'm going to make a living from performing or anything like that. And the idea for the show came from, there was a class, I taught at an improv school called the Free Association. Yeah. And in their level 1 syllabus, there's an exercise where you get people up on stage and then one by one, they go into the space and they describe an object. And then they leave and then the next person comes in. And it's meant to be a sort of yes and exercise, but with things rather than actions. So it's like if the first person says there's a bathtub and they go into some detail about what kind of bathtub it is, then what kind of sink would we have? And then the next person, what kind of toilet or whatever. And as a teacher, I was really look forward to that week. And I used to love watching that exercise. I found it's not funny or clever, but I just found it really satisfying. Almost in like an ASMR way of just seeing someone very patiently, slowly describe something in a space. And I sort of learned about myself that I actually just really love mime, which I had not previously thought. And then they used to have this night at the Free Association called Important Art, where you were meant to do something really self-indulgent. So I thought, what if I did 20 minutes where I just described a room? And in improv, that's called scene painting, where a scene might be happening and then someone will step forward and say, hanging from the ceiling is the mistletoe or whatever. And it kind of helps the scene. But I thought, what if I just did that? So I did 20 minutes. I got one object from the audience and then I spent 20 minutes describing a room. I had a great time. The audience, maybe not so much. But I was like, there's something in this. I really loved that. And then like a week later, the COVID happened. So that was March 2020 or something like that. So then I didn't do anything for a couple of years. Then when COVID was sort of easing up in 2022, I still had that little idea of maybe there's something more there. So I asked if I could do an hour of it, thinking it'll be interesting to see what happens when you go past 20 minutes. Like, how long can you push this? Yeah. And then because it was a longer slot, and because I'd had the reflection of like, I'm not sure how much everyone enjoyed that, naturally I then started going out more to the audience. And then towards the end, it just was like, oh, well, obviously I should do a scene in the room. So that's how the kind of formula of it was born. But at the time, I didn't think I would do it twice. I thought like, I'll do this once and it'll be a fun thing. But then I really enjoyed it. So I thought, oh, I'll do it again. And then I just started doing it once a month, still at my day job, not thinking, this is going to turn into anything. For the first year, I did it maybe 10 times and it was like 20 people came each time or whatever. But then I just kept going. I just kept doing this monthly show and I noticed that then it was 30 people, then it was 40 people. And then I noticed that the same people were coming back. And before I knew it, there were people who'd seen it 10 times, 15 times. And I just had this feeling of like, I'm not going to find another show that people will come to 15 times. Like, I've found something that's special here that obviously people are really getting a kick out of. And then it was selling out every month. So then I had this sort of like, oh gosh, I guess I have to do the Fringe now. It wasn't like, I really want to go to the Fringe. What shall I do? It was more like, oh, I'm just going to do this thing because I enjoy it. And then the audience were basically telling me like, you've got something here. Mm. So yeah, I was just doing it once a month. And then this year it's sort of, the frequency has gone like through the roof. So doing it, I was offered to do it for a week at the Soho Theatre and it sold out. And I was like, what is going on? And then my friend Celia, who I was at Edinburgh University with, who's a producer, she was kind of the one who really pushed me to say like, you've really got to do this. And my agent was like, yeah, you should do it. And I'm so glad that I did, because I sort of had 8 years away from the Fringe. Yeah. And to come back and to actually come with a show that is already working, whereas previously I had always turned up with a show that's like, not quite. So yeah, the decision to come was more feeling like I've got something that people are coming back to again and again and again. If I don't invest in this idea, if I don't double down on this, then what am I doing? Because, people would give their right arm for a show that people come back to again and again.
Yeah,
and again.
yeah.
So yeah, I hope that doesn't sound really arrogant that I'm like I was forced to come by my overwhelming demand, but
we say we do this to find the truth. It's the truth of the situation, and like what a joyous thing though to have been in this place where you thought, well, actually, I know where I'm at and I need to stop. As much as that pains me, I'm going to do it. And, responsibility and all that, you've done the thing that you feel is the right thing to do. And then to find that thing organically through a little seed of something, to then let that grow and take time over it and have a real bond with it and grow that connection with it and be part of it. And
and I don't think I would have found the show if I was still thinking, this is my career.
Yeah.
Because it's an idea that, I didn't have a commercial thought in my head. I was just like, this will be an interesting, fun one-night thing.
Yeah.
And I think if I'd still been thinking, I want to get on telly and I want to be a comedian or whatever, then I probably would not have thought that this is the way to go around it. Do you know the story of the old flute or whatever it is from that?
No, but I love an old story of an old flute.
I'm not going to be able to do it justice now.
Do you play the flute in it?
It's not an anecdote from my personal life.
Oh, it's an imaginary flute.
It's an imaginary flute.
Like your bloody room, right? Carry on. Give me an imaginary flute then. Taunt me with flutes. Threaten to play music and then take it. Oh, no, I'm kidding on. I'd love to.
I had played a flute in my show this month.
There you go.
I did that, and then someone in the audience helped me by providing the noise. No, it's at the start of. Do you know the book Free Play?
No, I don't.
It's a book about improv. But
I might have. Who wrote it?
He's called like Steven Nakvinovitz or something like that.
It rings a bell from drama school days. Yeah.
But he's in the world of improvised music.
Right.
So it's interesting to read from a different art, kind of art perspective. But it's a story at the beginning of the book, and it's kind of like a fable of someone who wants to be great at the flute. And I'm really not going to be able to do it justice, so I'll just give you okay, shall I give it a go? An old master comes to visit this village and gives a performance for the people in the kind of hall or whatever. And it's kind of transcendent. Everyone's completely transfixed. And people are like, God is speaking when this person's playing the flute. And there's a young boy who wants to be great. And he hears this. And the old man agrees to take him under his wing. So when the boy grows up, he moves to the city where the old man is. And every day he's practicing. And, once a month he goes, plays for the old man, and the old man says, something's lacking. And the young man, he pushes himself, he works harder and harder, he's practicing all day, every day, and yet still every time something is lacking. And he gets disillusioned. And he gives up, he stops playing the flute, and he starts working as a clerk or whatever, that, kind of administrative job. And he grows older and he becomes an old man himself. And one year he travels back to his village, and he's swept up in the celebrations of the evening, and he's in the village hall, and he thinks, you know what, I'll play too. I'm going to join in. I've got, just for the pure enjoyment of it, and I'm not trying to prove anything. And of course, it's only then when he plays that people are saying, oh, God is speaking, and there it is, because he's being the conduit, not the controller, right? Read the book. It's much better told in the book, but there's obviously parallels with my own story of, the phrase "giving up" is a harsh one, but I guess doing art for the sake of the joy of it, that's when you find something that's actually going to be that's joyous. And often we do step away from what we feel we should be doing or trying to chase in order to find that thing that we want to do, that we connect with. And from that moment, there comes the truth. If we're going to communicate a truth, and you can do all sorts of great stuff before that moment where you find out what it is that you're meant to be doing. But
finding that moment is a real a privilege and a luxury, I would imagine.
I will give just one caveat to that book, which is the last couple chapters go a little bit woo-woo. So I just know that I'm recommending the book, but don't think that I agree with the very end.
A retweet is not an endorsement.
A retweet is not an endorsement. I'm not. It's not offensive or anything, but it just becomes a little bit religious towards the end. Okay. So yeah.
So let's talk about giving up then, even though it's not the ideal way to talk about it, but that or pre-giving up. So those early Fringe days, right?
Yeah.
When so we're talking about 2007 or something, 2010.
My first one was 2010.
Yeah. Okay. So you're there. How many years did you do the Fringe at that point in time?
I was lucky that I was a student here, so I had my flat.
Oh, great.
So my first Fringe was 2010, and then I did every Fringe until 2016, performing. And then I wrote a play that was up in 2017, but I wasn't in it.
Cool.
So yeah, those were my early Fringe years. And I look back on them now and think, I'm really glad that I did all those Fringes, and each year I'd always be doing more than one show. And this is my first year just doing one show. I'd be doing stand-up, and then I'd be doing improv, and then I was lucky to be acting in some things as well. And I couldn't do that now. I mean, I'm exhausted doing my one show now. Yeah. But I really sort of just gave myself as many chances to fail as possible, And
embraced them with two hands.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the time, it's painful. But now that I've found this show, I'm like, oh, thank God. If my stand-up show in 2016 had gone marginally better, then I never would have found this show. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Thank God that I got 2 stars in The Scotsman,
Well, that's the thing. I was going to ask what advice you would give your younger self embarking on those first few Fringes from the position you're in now. And I guess that relates to what you'd maybe say to someone who's doing their first Fringe, second Fringe just now. Like, what advice would you, if you could summon them, say, here, you listen.
Yeah.
This, what would you say?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if I was talking to myself, I would probably say, you don't know. You don't realize how young you are. And you need to know that what you're doing is a lifetime pursuit. And it's not that you need that going to the Fringe, and if you're not the talk of the town when you're 22, but that's normal and fine, But I think my younger self would be like, oh, shut up, you're baldy. But I think it's hard to do that when you're young and to zoom out and think, these are my learning years.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want them to be my learning years. I wanted them to be my success years.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I wanted to be on the radar. I wanted to be buzzy. When really what I should have been doing is thinking, get your reps in and learn to actually find your thing. Because even if my shows were good, you could still see my influences pretty clearly, which is a good thing. And when I see young people doing their shows now, you can see who they're being, and then you'll have flashes of seeing them, and you're like, you're gonna be so good once you've done enough.
If they open that door fully,
exactly,
yeah.
And if you just, the more time you spend in front of an audience, the less you'll feel like you need to, pretend to be Tim Key, and yeah. So I think it's just like, and that's a tough thing to hear as well, to say, like, to if you're a young person, to hear someone be like, it's normal that your Fringe wasn't a runaway smash, Yeah. Yeah, I guess that would be it. I had a different answer ready, but in the moment you've caught me with that. I was going to say, I can't even remember what I was going to say, but I got the email with the questions this morning, so I have thought about some things. But yeah, I guess that would be it. Just like zoom out.
Great. Brilliant. I wonder then, of those years that you were there or here now, this year. What would you say has been your favourite Fringe moment of it all?
My favourite Fringe moment. The moment that has been in terms of, I'll answer about my favourite on stage moment for myself, which is I was lucky to be in an Adam Rich's show in 2015, and it was a show called Coach, and it was it was in the Queen Dome, and it was this kind of mad collection of people. I mean, it was like Richard Gadd, Liz Kingsman, Stevie Martin, Ben Target, Dan Cook, and a couple others. It was like, just insane. I mean, only Adam Rich's could have had a cast that big in that room. And the show was a parody of, American sports movies, but it ended with a live match, like it was like basically one-sided basketball. So they had a basketball hoop in the Queen Dome, and there were kind of rules of how the game worked, and we were playing with giant tennis balls. And so the show would end differently every night, which team won or lost. And to play live sport in, I'm never going to get that experience because I'm not a professional athlete and never could be. But to get a taste of what that feels like was incredible. Yeah. It was the most, like, if you got a shot in and then the entire Queen Dome erupts, that was like, that's the most adrenaline I think I've ever felt in my entire life. It was like the same kind of euphoric, I can only relate it to like dancing at my wedding. Yeah. It was like just the rush of endorphins of playing sport and being cheered on by, I don't know, 180 people in that room. And the way that Adam had built the show meant that everybody really cared about this game. And I love anything that's really live, really playful. And there's that sense of like, it's not dictated how this is going to go. So that's probably the in terms of memorable, just like that rush of that feeling of playing that, and also just spending the month with those people. It was a special thing. Yeah.
And then in terms of a show that sticks out as a punter at the Fringe, a moment from there.
I've got an answer which is sort of a cheat answer because I didn't actually see it at the Fringe. But before I came to the Fringe, my now wife, then friend, took me to Soho Theatre to see, and I basically hadn't really seen any alternative comedy at this point. The only comedy I'd seen was like, Jimmy Carr in a huge room or something. Took me to see a double bill of Tim Key, Slutcracker, and Johnny Sweet, mostly about Arthur, which they'd won the Perrier, both the awards the previous year. So I was kind of completely spoiled by being taken to see two of the kind of biggest shows of the previous year in 2009. And it was like a kind of brain exploding, mind expanding evening of being like, wow, I really want to be in that world. And Tim was a huge inspiration to me at the start and still is. I saw his new show yesterday. It's brilliant. But that wasn't at the Fringe, so it's kind of a cheeky answer. But in 2010, which was my first time doing the Fringe and being here all month, I was doing kind of a triple bill stand-up show, a sketch show with two friends, and then I was doing improv every night at half midnight. I don't know how I had the energy for that. And I was flying. And I still managed to see about 40 shows as well. Yeah. Just because I had the excitement and the energy. And I saw so many shows that year that really, really inspired me. Saw Nick Mohammed, Colin Holt. I saw this show, these guys called Tripod, who are Australian musical comedians, and they had this show it was my first time seeing a show where it was great and also beautiful. It was like the music was amazing and it told this great story. I wonder if anyone at the Fringe this year also saw that show. I'd be fascinated to talk to someone about it.
Let us know in the comments below if you saw Tripod in 2010.
Yeah, I mean, just so many. I think that's another thing I would say to any people starting out is just you got to take in as much as you can.
Great. Yeah,
and I wish I could take that advice now as an old person as well, of like go and see as much as I can. Yeah, I sort of waffled. I didn't really give you a proper answer there, but
that's grand. Well, we'll get to the quick fire.
Okay.
See how you go on with these. Your favourite food spot at the Edinburgh Fringe?
I'm the worst person to ask this. My Fringe diet is terrible.
But that's great. Tell us.
I mean, often it's just a Snickers and a Powerade.
Well, listen, if that's what you need to get you through, that's what you need to get you through.
You know, Moss Kitchen.
You've got half a Lion Bar there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Moss Kitchen. Big
Moss
shout.
Kitchen.
Big love.
The chips from City Restaurant.
Yeah.
With
great.
curry sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, often it's just whatever's the closest greasy thing.
I don't think you can go wrong with that. That's a quick fire answer I'm pleased with. Your top tip for this year?
I saw Ada and Bron, they've just been nominated for Best Newcomer, but I saw them the day before, so I'm still count as a true fan. And it was, the thing that I've seen this year that felt like the most exciting new thing of people doing something that I'd not really seen before. And it felt like it was made just for me. Absolutely loved it.
Excellent. That's exciting. Best Fringe night out?
Well, I mean, I'm a bit boring. I just end up staying in the courtyard and I swap my baseball cap for a woolly hat at around midnight.
Well, listen, I go home about 6 every night, so you're less boring than me.
Yeah. I mean, when my kids were up, I was straight home. Yeah. But yeah.
Your worst sleeping arrangement you've ever had to endure at the Fringe?
Well, I was very lucky that when I was doing my young Fringes, I was a student here, so I had a flat, but I did always fill it with other people. So I had people on sofas, and Phil Wang slept on my sofa in 2010. But I'm lucky that I've never had to kind of really rough it. So I've kind of skipped what you're meant to do. But
that's all right. They're not all rites of passage. You can't help. But I come through from Glasgow on the train every time. Although I do have a few, but it's not about me. It's not about me. Our last question then, David. Thank you so much for your time. What would be your top tip for people I panicked about the chair finally squeaking. Mind I said the chair had never squawk. Well, it squawk. Well then, David, seamless. Then, David, what would you say to round us off then would be your top tip for surviving the Fringe? As somebody who's come back stronger, fitter, wiser, more improvisational than ever, what would you say would be your top tip for surviving the Fringe?
Don't forget that you have a body that has needs. It's so easily done. I've been quite lucky this year that because of where I'm staying, I have to cycle 40 minutes a day. And I think that has done quite a lot of the work for me. But if you can somehow remember that your body needs taking for a walk, then that
brilliant.
That
great. That's fantastic. Well, David, all the best for the Shed tonight. All the best for the rest of the run. I can't wait to one time sit and imagine a room with you. It's been a pleasure sitting in this room with you, chatting, and all the best. Thank you very much.
Should we shake hands?
Yeah, let's.
Thanks, pal.
Thank you. Well, that was delightful. Thank you so much, David. And everybody, thanks for listening and watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't done it already. But do come back next time, where my guest will be Deborah Francis White. I'm very much looking forward to it and looking forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you and take care. Goodbye.